Welcome to this week's RSAI Capital Recap video. I'm Margaret Buckton, your RSAI professional advocate. Our primary topics this week, we're going to talk about a tax bill that eliminates the tax cut triggers and the Pearl levy. House File 532, the Qualified Instructional Supplement, now has preschool funding. House File 228, Diversity Plans, was amended in the Senate, sent back to the House. And a little bit of information on charter schools, diversity training, and flexibility bills that are still pending. Let's start with that tax policy bill. It's Senate File 587. In addition to reorganizing how the funding works for the mental health funding system and eliminating the commercial industrial tax backfill, it also impacts schools by raising the state school aid base to 88.4% of the foundation level beginning in the 22-23 school year. And then that also eliminates the public education and recreation levy, which is a small voter-approved levy that about 23 districts use across the state to help pay for playgrounds and swimming pools. The elimination of the tax trigger requirements before the 2018 income tax changes become law is the biggest impact on the state general fund, showing in the chart from the fiscal note a loss of $271 million in fiscal 23 and in fiscal 24 an even almost as big amount at $268.9 million. So because it hits the general fund and eliminates the Pearl levy, we are registered opposed to this bill. It was approved in the Senate, went over to the House. There have been messages in the press that the House may not be ready to take all of that, so make sure you talk to your representatives about those provisions. House File 532, the Qualified Instructional Supplement, the one-time funding to help pay for the costs of COVID, now includes resources for preschool growth next year. There's a $60 per pupil amount per qualified day, minus $1, which districts will pay to the AEAs for their costs related to COVID as well. It's based on the enrollment served, and it doesn't include students who chose a 100% virtual option. The details of the formula are included in your weekly report, so check that out if you have questions or concerns about that. The amendment in the Senate, in the Appropriations Committee, includes also School Budget Review Committee, or SBRC authority, which will be funded by federal funds for any preschool enrollment growth greater in this coming fall than we had in the current school year. There are some differences in how that will be handled. If your ending preschool balance is less than 25% of the foundation revenue that you get, your modified supplemental amount from the SBRC is automatic. It'll be a class action decision by them. If you have more than 25% ending balance, you can still request the authority. You have to apply, and the SBRC may grant it. The bill was approved in the Senate Appropriations Committee and on the Senate calendar, where we expect it to get consideration next week. We certainly support this bill as amended. It's much better than the versions that were previously considered. House File 228, Diversity Plans. This bill was amended in the Senate and approved on party lines and sent back to the House. It prohibits districts with voluntary diversity plans from regulating open enrollment out. Those are the 5 districts of Davenport, Des Moines, Postville, West Liberty, and Waterloo. The amendment eliminated a deadline for open enrollment application for the upcoming school year only, for 2021-22. In the language, however, they set aside the entire open enrollment chapter, and that's somewhat confusing. That even may eliminate the requirement of the diversity plan sending districts to pay the districts that receive those students. So we expect to see some clarification on that in the House. The intention was that the student in a district with a voluntary diversity plan could open enroll out at any time in the upcoming school year, but it returns to the normal March 1st deadline for open enrollment application in future years. There are big budget implications for these 5 districts, and of course credit implications for students if the receiving district doesn't accept partial credit mid-semester. We are opposed to the bill, and you need please ask your House members to fix that amendment and have a reasonable deadline for open enrollment requests out. Bills pending in the Senate calendar. House File 802 limits diversity training. The bill on the House side went much further than the original Senate bill. It prohibits training or curriculum on divisive subjects, prohibits scapegoating or systemic racism training. It's on the Senate calendar with an amendment pending, although the amendment has not yet been filed to the bill. Ask your senators to rein this in, to eliminate the application to curriculum, which should be under the purview of the local district, and make this a reasonable bill. House File 813, charter schools. This bill needs an amendment to make charters subject to public records, to require administrator licensure, to require a founding group to be Iowans, and to pay prorated funding back to the public school if the student withdraws from the charter school or the charter expels them. The bill is currently on the Senate calendar. House File 847 deals with flexibility and open enrollment. The bill provides innovation waivers, allows transfer of any teacher leadership and compensation ending balance to the flex account by board action, directs the payout of excess teacher salary supplement funding to teachers, has lots of open enrollment provisions. Some are okay, some we have concerns about, and it adds a special education director and work-based learning internship coordinators to operational sharing. In the amendment that happened in the House, however, they lowered the weighting associated with several of the operational sharing provisions for the 3 out years of the operational sharing program, so not this coming year, but the 3 following years. And that actually reduces operational sharing, according to the fiscal note, by $2.8 million statewide. Ask your senators to fix that provision and maintain the commitment to operational sharing. Well, good news. The movement of budget bills not only signals that it's spring, but it's the beginning of the end of session. Many of the budget bills got consideration this week. The Education Appropriations Subcommittee in the House met on Thursday morning to talk about their initial proposals for education appropriations, and it expands child mental health funding. In 2 different ways, it increases the amount for the initial deposit on the Therapeutic Classroom Incentive Funds. Those grants will begin this next year, and that increases the appropriation to over $1.6 million. And then it also increases funding to the AEAs for school-based mental health services. In last year's bill, it was $2.1 million. This would add another million to $3.1. Make sure you talk to your House members in gratitude for this increased commitment to student mental health funding. Coming up next week or soon after, floor debate on all the bills that need to move will have to happen for them to survive this session. The budget bills will advance, and tax policy differences between the House and the Senate will have to reach consensus. April 30th, the last day of the 2021 session, per diem payments to legislators is coming fast, and they intend to be done by that time. Also coming soon, the dates and locations for RSAI regional meetings that are starting in May. Watch your inboxes for that information. Your advocacy action task list this week. Issues to discuss. First, thank both your senators and representatives for getting that English language learner tiered weighting bill to the governor. We were supportive of that and appreciate that policy being in place. In the Senate, talk to senators about the charter schools. House File 813 needs amending. Vote yes on House File 532, the Qualified Instructional Supplement, which also now includes preschool resources for next fall. We have concerns with House File 802, diversity training. Amend this bill so that it's reasonable. And the concerns with House File 847, lowering the operational shared weighting for several positions. On the House side, talk to your representatives about Senate File 587, that big tax policy bill. Make sure that they take the impact on the elimination of the voter-approved public education and recreation levy out of that proposal, and support the mental health funding for students in education appropriations. We've got lots of RSAI resources to help. Check the website. That call to action on charter schools still includes talking points for the amendments that we are requesting. And also look at this week's report of legislative information. We've got lots of details there that might help you better understand the proposals that are yet to be considered. Don't forget to keep us informed of contacts and relationships you and your team members are having with legislators. And a big shout out and thank you to our corporate sponsors, BoardWorks, Carlay Nelson Construction, and Apogee. We appreciate their support of the Rural School Advocates of Iowa. You can find information on how they will help your district on the corporate sponsor page of the RSAI website. And most of all, thank you for your advocacy efforts on behalf of the students in your school. We'll see you next week.